Welcome to the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, brought to you by the Arkansas Cattlemen's Association. Here, we dive into the heart of Arkansas's cattle industry, where legislation, education, advocacy, and development come together to support the hardworking cattle producers of the natural state. Whether you're in the pasture or on the road, this is your connection to the people, policies, and programs shaping the future of our industry. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast. I am your host, Michelle Buffkin-Horton.
I am your co-host, Norley Townsend.
So we figured about 12 episodes in, we'd get official and
do a different intro.
Yeah, we live and we learn. If you are tuning in and watching us wherever you watch your podcasts, you're going to see something a little different. We're sitting at a desk. We've got an extra person here with us. So last week we promised an episode with an interview, and that we are excited to bring that. This episode, we've got Dr. Maggie Justice joining us, and we're going to do a little interview with her here in just a few minutes, talking about animal nutrition and forages and pasture recovery following a flood. So we promised it, we brought it, we're excited to be able to do something different this episode.
Finally got a special guest.
Again, 12 episodes in, we're going to do some things a little different. We're learning as we go.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to start it out like we always do with that little, our last official in-session Hats on the Hill. Yep,
so if you don't know, the legislative session ends this week, ends on Wednesday, April the 16th, and that's also the day we are currently recording this. We're ahead of schedule this week, and so session's wrapping up this week. We are, the Senate by the time you've heard it, both of them will be adjourned, but even right now I think the House is adjourning as we record this episode, and so we have quite a short legislative update for you this week. We'll do a full deep dive recap at some point later on in the podcast, and so we'll do a couple episodes an episode down the road where you're able to do a large deep dive recap. But I do want to talk about one bill this week, and that is the only update I have for y'all, and that is Senate Bill 290. If you've been tuning in since the beginning of these podcasts, you've heard me talk about Senate Bill 290 quite a lot. And so good news is that we talked about last week, it was introduced into the House Ag Committee and onto the House floor, got amended, and then went back to the House floor. So it passed House floor as amended this week and then went on to the Senate. It passed the Senate floor to concur the House amendment on Wednesday morning about 9 a.m. And so we were able to see that bill come to its fruition. It's headed to be enrolled and then headed to the governor's desk. So by the time that you hear this podcast, we may have an act number for Senate Bill 290. And it's been a long time coming. It's been a long discussion. To update y'all on that or refresh your memory on that one if you don't remember, it is the legislative process bill surrounding permitting moratoriums. And so it's essentially saying that the power to create a permitting moratorium will now lie with the state legislature and the Arkansas Legislative Council and or the Joint Budget Committee, depending on session or not, as opposed to an unelected state agency. And so for us, it's a private property rights issue, it is a right to farm issue, and it's a protection for farmers down the road. If you don't remember, the amendment that got added last week was saying that it does not affect the current moratoriums that are in existence. So the Lake Maumelle moratorium and the Buffalo River watershed will not follow this process, but any future moratorium will follow this process. So very big win for Arkansas producers. Really excited and really grateful for the work of our sponsors and our members who reached out to their elected officials. This was a very controversial bill, ended up being called the bill of the session a lot of times. And so it was, for us, it looks a lot different than when we started, but it's still a very big win for cattle producers and for producers in the state of Arkansas. So thank you for your work and your advocacy and your fight for this bill, along with the sponsors as well. And so really grateful for a good update on that bill. So, and that's all I got for you.
All the hats on the hill.
Yep, that was it. We're short this week because we get to have an interview now. So we want to focus on that.
For sure.
Instead. All right, so we're going to hop in. So, Dr. Justice, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. For people that may not know you, can you provide us a little bit of your background and how you ended up in forage and animal nutrition?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank y'all for having me. I'm so excited. I am a weekly listener, so very excited to be on the podcast
What
today.
is it, like long-time listener, first-time caller?
Yeah. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, that feels right.
But so excited to be here with y'all and to kind of talk through some of the issues our current cattlemen are having across the state. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I am Maggie Justice, and I am your beef cattle extension specialist with the University of Arkansas Division of Ag. And so I am originally from what we call the low state of South Carolina. Grew up on my family's commercial cow-calf operation, and it, like most of our beef cattle producers here in the Southeast, it was a family affair. For my parents, it was a secondary income, and I'm one of 4 girls, so it was all hands on deck. My dad is definitely a girl dad.
Yes.
So, but very fortunate. I grew up involved in extension. I was a very active 4-H'er growing up, and I would have to say that definitely shaped my current career big time. So went to Clemson University for my undergraduate and master's degree, and then wound it up at Auburn University for my PhD in beef cattle nutrition and management. So fellow War Eagle here.
Yes.
But
don't hold that against us. It's fine.
I know we wear the right color now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, are we? I'm wearing red.
I'm wearing UADA today. But very fortunate that wrapping up my time at Auburn, this position came open here in Arkansas, and I applied for it and was very fortunate to receive it. So I am coming up on my 2-year anniversary here in Arkansas, beginning of May. And so it's been a whirlwind since I started, but awesome. I love working with the producers across the state and really diving into the research the past couple years. And like I said, just serving the cattlemen throughout the state. It's a dream, and I'm currently living my dream job.
I understand that. I think we both do. I think Norley and I both kind of understand that sentiment.
But I didn't have to move states for that, so.
The only one.
The only one.
But I got to wake up this morning and work cows, so it's been a great day.
Yeah, it has been a busy day so for you, and we appreciate you taking the time with us, so we're glad to have you.
Yeah, for sure. And so this spring has been anything but typical in Arkansas, so how has the weather shaped your work so far in this season?
Yeah, so, when we talked about today's podcast, the weather's going to be a big push in what we talk about. And I have to say that I think for the past month or so, we've definitely seen what our farmers here in Arkansas are made of. And kind of like I said, I was working calves this morning. Our calves don't wait for the weather. So, we had some pretty major flooding this past week throughout the state. And our research farm, our livestock and forestry research farm there in Batesville, helped us wean some calves this week for a research project. So might be muddy out in the pastures. We might be watching that White River levels a little bit, but time goes on and the calves got to get weaned. Yeah. And so it's definitely kind of shaped some of our spring planting and thinking about our warm season forages that we need to start coming up and making plans for. But we kind of got to keep going on. Calves are going to get weaned over here across the state for the next 2 months, some of our fall calvers. And then we're going to dive right into the summer months and making sure our cows have enough grass and hay's getting cut.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned about the planting side of it, and so let's dive into the short terms, and I'm going to probably mess up the questions here because I think I'm going to kind of combine 2 of these, but that's fine. We're going to dive into a little bit of pasture recovery, but what are the short-term and long-term impacts of flooding that producers need to be keeping an eye out for right now?
So I'm going to kind of start with after the storms we've had over the past month. I would say the best thing right now we can do is kind of take inventory of what's going on, and then that can really help us see what those short-term and long-term impacts are. Some short-term impacts we could have could just be, we leave major tire tracks going through the middle of the field and that grass doesn't come up. Or we've heard some reports about some early planting that happened right before those floodwaters hit us. And I bet those seeds aren't in the ground where we planted them anymore. So those are kind of some of those short-term things we can think about. And long-term, again, if we were trying to get seed in the ground and we got it in there and then that rain event happened and those seeds are no longer there, then we risk not having those warm season forages that we were planning for. And then we also can start to think about some of the long-term impacts on our soil as well. So all that mud can start to get compacting in our pastures and really impact how we plant forages in the future, but how our current forages are growing as well. Because when that soil gets compacted, those root systems can't grow, and we're not going to have healthy stands of forages. We also can think about what the rainwater took away, the floodwater took away from us as well. You know, talking to just some of our county agents south of Little Rock here, we're talking about, you know, entire pastures were washed away by some of that. And so you might have had a soil test done about a month or two ago to get ready for that spring planting and that spring fertilizer. And I would take a gander that it's probably not the same composition that we thought it was. So right now is going to be a really great time for our producers to be working with their county extension agents, making sure that pastures are healthy and ready to go in terms of what can we do after the storm.
Yeah, so with that, let's talk a little bit about management. Like, what steps should producers take to help their pastures recover faster from all the rain?
So I'm going to think about it in terms of our cattle as well, and cattle safety. So with those floodwaters that we saw, one of the best things you could do right now is go ride fence lines as well, because we can see a lot of debris come up in pastures, trees fall, limbs fall, and that sturdy backline fence line that we talk about all the time that we don't worry about, now would be a good time to go check it, because especially as we're deep into the spring breeding season, we don't want the neighbor's bull getting in or our girls getting out. So make sure that those fence lines have been checked. Next thing to think about in the pasture is make sure there isn't any debris in the pasture as well. And so rivers flooding, lots of water moving. We don't know what can get carried in the pasture. Maybe we had an old hay ring sitting in the pasture that also got damaged again, and now we've got metal throughout the pasture. I wish we could have a chat with our girls and convince them that metal or nails or something shouldn't be something they eat, but we can't always have that conversation. So just for our overall cattle health, make sure that we're checking for debris, we're checking what's in the pasture, and we're checking our fence lines. Now, thinking about our pastures, to kind of help with some of that damage, if we've still got ground that's super soft or standing water in those pastures, it might be a good idea to move our herds if we can. Because if that ground's soft for us, it's definitely going to be soft for a 1,200-pound animal. And so that's where we could really see some paction issues and things like that. So if we can't move them, maybe we think about having a sacrifice field that we keep them for right now. But in terms of the long-term health of our pastures, if we can let them rest and let them recover without having to hold a herd on them right now, that would be one of the best things that we can do.
Yep. Yeah, I like that viewpoint of like, hey, like it's obvious, but it seems like sometimes we just don't think about it. Like, hey, if it's soft for us, it's definitely going to be soft for them. Along those same kind of lines is, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about overseeding or replanting right after a flood? And with that, are there any particular grasses or forage types that you would recommend for us?
Oh yeah, y'all are throwing the hard grass questions at me today. No, but that's okay. So the good thing is that right before that storm, we hadn't gotten super warm yet. So about right now, going into May is really when we're thinking about the planting season as is. And so right now would just be a lot of making sure your pasture's recovered and we can roll a tractor across it with a drill behind it. But if you had already planted before that, I would say right now would be a good time to pause. Let's check on our pastures, let's give them a little moment to recover, and then we can start thinking about replanting or overseeding with some of our warm season forages. Because the big thing right now is it was pretty cool last night. And one of the most important things we think about when we're planting our forages is the nighttime temperature, because that's going to have the biggest impact on our soil temperature. And so we really want to wait for those consecutive warmer nights so that our soil temperature is up as well. But we're kind of in that good moment where take a breather, let our pastures, let the ground recover a little bit, and then we can drag the tractor across it, whether that be to drill or broadcast our seed. Now, in terms of forages, oh, y'all know me. I love grass. It's amazing.
That's why I asked.
I know. I love grasses, and especially it's one of the reasons I love my job here in Arkansas is because, you know, right here in Little Rock's kind of my line. Mm-hmm. I think about my Bermuda Bahia grass systems to the south of me and my tall fescue systems to the north of me, and it gives me a lot of room to play. But the good news is that a lot of our forages that we already grow here, us grass nerds like to use the term, they like wet feet, so to say. So their roots aren't going to completely collapse in on us just from having a little bit of wet ground. And so two of those that I think about quite often are our tall fescue and our Bermuda. They can stand a little bit more of that standing water, just a little bit, not too much. Don't want my agents coming after me for making that comment. But again, it's going to be more of how do we react to that standing water in the pasture to make sure that those grasses can have that strength to kind of stand on their own and recover when we do have as much water as we've had in the pasture.
Yep.
Yeah. So what red flags should producers be looking for in flood-impacted forages before turning cattle back out?
My biggest one is that squishy ground and that standing water. You know, not even just that 1,200-pound cow walking back out there, but our side-by-sides, our ATVs can also cause damage in the pasture when we don't mean to. You know, taking a tractor across it consistently, a pickup truck sometimes will do more damage than a tractor will just because of the difference in tires. But making sure that if we have to sacrifice a pasture, we do it for one and we let the others kind of recover, let that water start to drain out a little bit on us, and we watch it.
Perfect. Switching gears a little bit and talking about some of your other favorite things, we're going to do a little bit more deep dive, look into nutrition side. So as pastures begin to green up, it can be very easy for cattle producers to assume that cattle are getting everything they need right now. What's the reality this time of year?
Oh, okay. Y'all can quote me on this. I'm going to make t-shirts on this. We're going to close the gate, Michelle. Close the gate, guys. I know it can be one of the most exciting things in the world to look out there and see that Bermuda grass, see that Bahia grass start to green up. But we're going to close the gate because that grass needs time to reestablish itself, to grow a little bit, and to make sure that it's strong and healthy before we release our cattle out on it. All right, we want to make sure that we get a little bit of height on our forages and that they come up and that we've given them time to kind of reestablish themselves, and that our pastures are healthy before we let the cattle go out on them. Now, like you kind of said, it's also green, so I get excited and I kind of assume that that's the only thing that they need, and I really wish that was the case, but more often than not, it's not the case. And so this is really going to be dependent on what stage of production our herds are in right now. So, you know, if we're fall calvers and we're coming up on weaning time and our herd is, our mature cows are dry for the most part, a lot of our warm season forages will meet their nutritional needs. That's awesome. This is the best time of year. We don't have to spend as much money going into the summer months supplementing it. But if we're spring calvers and our girls are in that peak lactation period, their demands are a little bit higher. Yep. And they need a little bit more. They might need a little bit more than the green grass that's in the pasture. So I'm going to sound like a broken record again, but this is a perfect opportunity for you to work with your county extension agent. Yep. Make sure they're going to have a good idea on what the average nutritional value is for those pastures. And if they don't, they can call me. They know to do that. And then we can kind of create a good nutrition plan in this transitional period for us and go into the summer months. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a one-stop shop, like a one-fit solution for everybody.
That's right. It absolutely is not, you know, and that's one of the things I love about the cattle industry is that we all can be so different and unique in our own production systems, but it's important to recognize that. And so, you know, you go down the road and see that your neighbor's not feeding any supplement and they're just out there grazing and having a good time, But, like I said, if your girls are in peak lactation and they've got a calf at their side, their body's recovering from that pregnancy, and we're asking them to rebreed in a timely manner, that's a lot. That's hard on her body. And so if we're not in tune to that, we're not providing her with a little bit of extra supplement that she might need, we risk setting her up for failure, and then that becomes our fault. And so one of the easiest things that we can do is make sure that we're on the same page with their needs, what our forages are providing for us, and then where we need to fill in the gaps with that supplementation.
Yeah, so speaking of that, what are some common springtime nutritional gaps that producers overlook most of the time?
Ooh, okay. I'm probably going to tackle this with a couple of different points. Yeah, y'all asked the forage nutrition nerd to come into the booth today.
We did.
That's what we want.
So one of them right now is going to be your vitamins and minerals. And so these transitional periods in our forages from spring, cool season to our warm season, and then even in the fall, we see it at the same time, we see some shifts in our vitamins and minerals for our cattle. In the fall, I'm really worried about we're going from lush green grass to hay, so we start to see some vitamin differences. But right now in the spring, we're all alert to it. We're kind of getting out of the danger zone just a little bit, but grass tetania is one of the things we're thinking about right now. That lush green grass, those cool season forages, our tall fescue, they get green, and we think everything's okay, but especially with our girls that are lactating, we see a rise in some of their calcium needs, and their magnesium is not where it needs to be. So that's where we can see some issues with grass tetania. So making sure that you are providing that mineral for those cattle, whether it be in their supplement that they're getting or free choice mineral out in the pasture, making sure that we're staying consistent with that and that they have it at all times, so that while they're out there in the pasture, we don't risk having a train wreck with our minerals. And then thinking about, as we transition from our cool season forages to our warm season forages, understanding that there is a little bit of a difference in the density of the nutrients in those forages as well. So oftentimes I tell producers our cool season perennials and annuals are high up there on that bar graph when we think about what they can provide for our forages. And our warm seasons are as well. Trust me, I'm from the land of Bahia grass. I love Bahia grass, but it's not quite there. So, recognizing that there is a little bit of difference in our forage species and what they can provide. And so as long as we recognize that and we're ready to address it, it doesn't have to be that big of an issue. And then kind of that final gap that I think about is where I joked about closing the gate. But I don't really mean it as a joke. So we can be really fast to go out there in the green grass, the pasture, as soon as it comes up and let the cattle go and eat. But sometimes we might have to take a pause. Maybe we have to feed a little bit of hay just to make sure that our pastures are where we want them to be. And so if that's happening, recognizing that hay probably doesn't have the nutritional value that some of our cool season grazing forages did. And so if we have to have a little bit of supplementation to get us over the hump before our pastures are ready, being ready to do that and recognizing that it's okay if we have to do that.
So our next question, I feel like you've already answered it, but I'm going to just double check, is that what is one mistake you see producers make in the spring that could be avoided? And I feel like that's going to be your t-shirt quote that says close the gate. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yes, no, and I'm gonna make this t-shirt tonight, I think. I'm gonna wear it around tomorrow. But to me, it's not even just like in the moment there not being enough grass out in the pasture for them. Just because there's green grass doesn't mean there's enough. But I think about the kind of long-term consequences we can see if we let our cattle out on the pasture too soon. And so a good example I always talk about is, what's going on top is a great example of what's going on at the bottom. And so if we haven't given those warm season forages time to kind of pop up and grow, we've probably not given roots enough time to wake up and grow and start to establish themselves again. And so if we go out there and we're just strip grazing and cutting it down as low as we can every second of the day, then that then those leaves on the plant haven't had time to create the storage of the carbohydrates and the nutrients that the roots need as well. And so when we give it time to establish itself, get a little bit of height on it, and have a good, healthy pasture going forward, then we might be giving ourselves a few extra weeks of grazing on the back end this summer too, because healthy pastures are going to be productive for us, especially when the weather is right. We're hoping for good weather.
Okay.
So again, we can't control everything in the pasture. We can't control the weather. We can't control what's going to happen in the next 2 months. But if we try to control what we can, and that's our management of the cattle on the grass, then we're just going to set ourselves up for more success down the road.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, and that extra 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever of grazing in the summer could come at just the right time.
Yeah.
I feel like for a lot of producers, because Arkansas tends to feel, I said last night, I was like, Arkansas is never more than 2 weeks away from a drought, it feels like. And so.
Oh, yes. No, I was having this conversation with a colleague from out west from Montana the other day, and I said something. We were in Dallas when all of the big rain was happening, and I said something about, parts of our state getting 11 and 13 inches of rain. And he looked at me and he's like, Maggie, I know parts of the country that only get 11 and 13 inches of rain in an entire year. And I was like, well, that's great, but we're a little different. I was like, that's a lot of rain at one time.
Yeah.
But you give it a month without any more rain, and we could be in a drought.
Yes.
So
I mean, we were in one right before it rained 11 or 13 inches.
Yes. And then I think about, we were already kind of struggling going into the winter grazing season as it is because of how dry we were this fall. And guys weren't able to plant. We did have some guys have some luck planting really late in the season, but I mean, that was on a wing and a prayer.
Yeah.
That was very fortunate that we got some of that grazing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I know you went ahead and mentioned like soil testing, test your soils, but what tool or other tests do you recommend for evaluating both pasture health and animal nutrition this time of year?
Yes.
So
I get to say my commercial, yes.
It's like we put it in there on purpose.
I know. I love it. This makes my job easier. Your county extension office is one of the best resources that our cattle producers, our agriculture producers have in the state of Arkansas.
Yep.
So I always say that, I love working with county agents because I am never a text, call, email away from them. And if they don't know the answer, they know who to call and ask the answer for. But we talk about, we have free soil testing here in the state of Arkansas. That is a magnificent resource for our producers. Your county agent can come out and help you decide how you're going to test your pastures, if you need to get different tests for different fields. And then your county agents can also help you figure out what, like I said, sometimes we can test our pastures if we really want to, but for the most part with our grazing forages, we have a good idea on what those average nutritional values going to be. But we're also going to make sure that we test our hay. And so I can tell you grazing species of forage, like I said, what that average is going to be, but hay is completely different. There's a lot of things that impact the nutritional value of our hay. So if we're not testing, we're guessing. That's another t-shirt quote.
Yes.
I'm gonna get. So right now, if you're feeding hay, or as we go into the summer months, cutting hay, work with your county extension agent, get that hay tested. So when it comes time to feed it, we are prepared to make that a better nutritional plan for you. And we can make sure that, if it's protein you're lacking, we're focused on the protein. If it's energy, we're focused on the energy. And so get those tests and utilize those resources that you have in your own county. Like they're never more than just a drive away or a call away from you.
And you alluded to it. I mean, they can do the tests. I mean, not now because we're not. I've seen some people getting ready to cut hay, but we're not quite to hay season yet. Feels like, and so, but they can test now to plan better for the future. Like they don't have to wait until they're feeding hay in the winter to get those tests.
Absolutely. So, we have a couple of programs in extension that work with. One of the cool ones I'm going to give a shout out to is our hay verification program. And so that's used in a couple of counties right now where they're testing the different hay cuttings, and it's telling us how our management is going. How that fertilization recommendation went. Do we need to change up? How's the future going to look? And then what's the health of that pasture looking like when we're done? Because again, what we can control and can set us up better for success in the future.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a lot of things in the agriculture industry that we cannot control, and so having better understanding and management of what we can really can make a drastic difference, because there are so many things that life can throw unexpected curveballs at you all the time. So, all right, to wrap this up, if you had to give a producer just one piece of advice for managing cattle, what would it be? That's a hard question, too, I feel like.
Oh, I think I'm going to go with some advice I had to give myself, just a short while ago, is that it's okay for us not to know everything, especially in the cattle industry. And especially with pasture management, y'all, there's so many different species of forages out there. If you don't know them all, it's okay to say that and okay to admit that. And so ask for that advice. We've got some amazing cattlemen in this state, and I love riding around with my county agents and going and visiting these farms, because I feel like I learned so much from these guys. And so listening to the advice of the guys around you, what has worked for them and what hasn't, and then utilizing those resources available to you to help you build. Because like I said, if your county agent doesn't know the answer standing truck side or chute side with you, they know where to find it. And we're going to find it for you. And so it's okay not to know everything, and to admit that and ask for help, because we have the resources to help you out.
Yes. Yep. All right. I love that. And I think that's something a lot of producers and a lot of people struggle with, is just that, sometimes just that admitting that, hey, I may not know this. But as soon as one person does, I feel like everyone else is like, okay, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I didn't know either. And so it opens up a lot of conversations that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise. So anything else you wanna plug, you wanna highlight, you wanna talk about before we wrap up?
No, thank y'all so much again for having me today. Like I said, it was an honor. Long-time listener, first-time caller. But just guys, cattle producers, close the gate. Give your pasture just a little bit more time to recover from the rain we've had the past couple weeks, and let's go moving forward. Let's make sure that we're setting our pastures and our herds up for success through these summer months.
If you're not testing, you're guessing.
If you're not testing, you're guessing, and close the gate.
Yeah, Maggie's literally going to come back with just T-shirts.
That's
she's
right.
going to come to Cattlemen's Convention just prepped with T-shirt sayings. I love it. I appreciate it. This has been, all the podcast episodes are fun to record, I feel like, but this has been one of my favorites, because it is truly a conversation that I hope that our listeners, our producers, are wanting to hear and are excited to hear. So we really, truly appreciate you spending the time with us today.
Thank y'all so much, and check us out on Facebook. I'm trying to be cool with the kids these days.
Yes, you are. What's the name of the Facebook page?
It is Arkansas Extension Beef Systems.
There you go. Perfect. That is where you can find it. We appreciate you listening today. We appreciate Dr. Justice joining us for this conversation. If you have questions for your extension agent or for Dr. Justice or any of the other state specialists, reach out to us. Leave us a comment. We'll leave their information, and we'll leave the link to be able to find your contact information there in the show notes, so that way y'all can actually find out who these people are and how they can help you. We're really grateful for you taking the time with us today.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Norlie, how do they find us?
As always, find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, all the things, everywhere. Just look us up, Arkansas
Anywhere you can
Cattle
find
Association
podcasts.
or Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast. So, like us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. We'll be posting about this soon. So,
Yep. We appreciate you tuning in, and as always, take care of yourself, take care of your herd. We'll see you next time.
see y'all later. This is the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, your trusted source for all things cattle in the natural state.